Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, it's 9:30, which means it's time for my live stream, and I'm in my car instead of my studio, and it makes me giggle a little bit because today we're talking about finding time for what matters. Many of you I know are in the similar situation. I'm gonna grab my laptop. Where's my laptop? Well, that's super interesting. Anyway, as a working mom with bazillion children who need a bunch of things, so today's thing that got in the way is dental appointments, which have been on the calendar for a little while and were overdue because of COVID. So here we are at the dentist, and I'm out in the car while the girls are getting their teeth cleaned and fillings because it's been too long since we've been to the dentist because of COVID. So I just thought that was perfectly apropos for our subject today. We know that we need to practice. We know that we need to do these things. We want to do these things. And sometimes life just gets in the way. And there you are. So I have no way of knowing if people are on because I'm on my phone. I'm usually on my computer. So it's just super interesting. But anyway, so as we look at practice and what it means to practice, I'm going to give you one mindset tip. And if you do this, then it's a pretty simple process from there as to how to maximize your practice time. And so, first of all, we have to reframe what it means to practice. So typically we think that practice involves sitting in front of a piano and doing some scales and maybe some exercises that are specific to building certain skills or function or something. And then you go in and you do your repertoire work, which is working on songs and learning new songs, polishing old songs, putting in performance, things like that, right? So that's the traditional definition of what it means to practice. And so I'm going to say, let's look at a modern version of what practice might be. And let's step outside that very narrow square, because we know that, how many of us just have 2 hours a day or 4 hours a day to set aside to do that? I know I don't. But things still got to get done. So what I have done, so that's the first thing we're going to reframe, that practice does not have to happen in front of the piano. It does not have to be dedicated time in a chunk of 2 to 4 hours that is set aside, that you are only in front of the piano. Sometimes some things you're going to have to do that way, but there are lots and lots of things that you can do not in that sort of a format, right? So we're going to talk about 2 different ways that you can maximize places in your life throughout the day that you can kind of, I don't want to say hijack, multitask. And I hate that word because multitasking usually means you don't do anything very well because you're trying to do too many things. But in this case, it can be really, really beneficial. So, for instance, every morning when my shower is warming up, that is when I do my shoulder and neck stretches. And yes, singers, we should be doing stretches all the time. Every day you should be stretching your body, and you should be doing joint work, like mobility work. I'm showing you with my wrist, but there's lots and lots of things that we need to be doing in our jaw, in our tongue, in our neck, in our collarbone, in our shoulders, in our hips, in our ribs, in our spine. All of those things need to be happening on a daily basis. So that's one example. So if you are, I will, every morning when my shower is warming up, I will do some stretching. And for me, my neck and my upper back shoulders are giving me problems right now because of all the Zooming that I'm doing. So that's usually when I do my neck and shoulder stretches. And I also do functional exercises at the same time. And there are moments like that throughout the day that you can just go, well, I have 30 seconds to kill. What am I going to do? Right? And you can just insert task here. So here's some more examples. If you are making coffee, whether it's the kettle is heating up the old-fashioned way, or you have a fancy new machine that, you drop the pod in, it still takes, a minute and a half to 2 minutes? You can get something done during that time. There's stretching, there's sirens, there's vocal function exercises, there's range of motion, there's mobility, there's mindfulness. You can practice a train of thought. You can, read some affirmations to yourself. You can, there's so many things that little bite-sized thing, 2 minutes, right? And you can do this. There's so many different places. I'll just go through a list of the different places in my life that I will work on these specific things. Walking the dogs. And then what I usually like to do is whatever that task is that I'm already doing, I attach something to it so that I can remember, oh, that's right. It's not just that I'm going to do something, it's that I'm going to do this. So for the shower, I always do my neck and shoulder stretches. When I'm walking the dogs, I work my breathing. I work my nasal breathing specifically. I make sure that I'm inhaling and exhaling through the nose and that my jaw is nice and loose as I do it. When I am waiting in the car for my daughters, usually instead of being on the phone, I'll actually be working on my alignment. I'll be working on getting a little bit more length in the upper back and my neck itself, making sure that I'm combating that head forward posture that we've all been developing because of our phones and Zoom. So I usually work on my posture when I'm waiting for my daughters to finish something. If I am cooking something, like something quick, heating something up in the microwave or heating up water or something, I'll often do sirens or lip trills. But I do like an actual slide instead of a dedicated scale pattern, because that works something different in the voice. There's always semi-occluded exercises that we know are great for us, like straw phonation or blowfish, something like that. And I will often do that in the car. That one I kind of sprinkle lots of different places, if I'm being honest. But you could find a place in your day where you go, oh, every time I hit a red light, I'm going to do a blowfish. And you just make it part of your daily, everyday thing. Another place that I will practice my breathing intentionally is when I'm standing in line at the store. And this isn't heavy breathing. This is something you can do in the midst of COVID. But what I will do is I will practice negotiating the different physical coordinations of my spine, my ribs, and my abs as I'm standing in line. And I just rehearse that. And so it usually involves, I do silent counting, which works really, really well. But some sort of breath, like a physical breath function. It's not about moving lots of air. It's not about, it's usually a very elongated, slow exhale. And so you can do that even in COVID land. It's okay to do that, especially if you have your mask on. You can do blowfish with your mask on too, if it's off of your face. So you could work your semi-occluded without voice, just feeling the stretching, the internal stretching that happens with that. So those are some areas of my life that I tend to do this multitasking. Like it's a minute or two that I'm just going to lose. The time is going to pass anyway. I got to stand in line. I got to sit in the car. I got to wait for my water to heat up. I got to wait for my shower to heat up. So let's fill that time wasted instead of picking up my phone and checking to see how many people liked my freaking TikTok from the day before. Instead of doing that, I'm going to do something that's actually constructive and helping move me forward. Now, the other thing that I do is I call these constructive fidgets. And you can do this in the short little periods of time, or you can work this in, like if you're in a Zoom meeting, or I used to do this even in live meetings at the universities. Sometimes you have these events that you need to go to as a faculty, and I would be sitting in the audience along with 400 other faculty members while the president of the university gave the welcome back to school address or whatever. And I would pick one thing that I was going to focus on that I could do while the lecture was going on. So it would be something that would be very, very small and internal. And that, I mean, I was still paying attention, but I would do like little tiny like oscillations of the spine. I would do a lot of imagery of, elongation and, little tiny things that nobody could see that I was working on. And I could do for long periods of time. You could do even, like if you're having shoulder issues, you could be the whole time just like jiggling that shoulder around, doing tiny, slow range of motion, like microscopically slow and tiny range of motion to see if you can get that shoulder to reprogram the way it moves. And these are all really, really helpful things that we should be doing that are incredibly time consuming. You could do tongue positions inside your mouth, working on the tongue position for the different vowels and consonants and making sure that there's no extra tension as you move from one vowel to another, So there's all sorts of little things that you can do that nobody would know that you're doing. And it is spending minutes and hours sometimes building the practice habits that you need. So anyway, that's what I had to share today as I sit in my car waiting for my daughters to finish with their dental work. So I hope that this was helpful. What are you multitasking today? Pick something that you think that you can do some sort of practice while you do the multitasking. And I'd love to hear about it. So drop that in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, remember every Tuesday at 9:30, I go live on Facebook. And I do it from my studio. Usually it's a little more structured, but we talk about all sorts of mindset and learning and teaching strategies for voice. So have a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.